After a global zombie invasion, humanity is confined to living in a base situated in the heart of the desert. Today, we'll revisit the narrative of the 2007 film, Resident Evil Extinction. In the opening scenes, Alice awakens in a bathroom within an unfamiliar mansion, filled with confusion about her surroundings and how she arrived. Upon dressing, she ventures into the hallway, her attention captivated by a mysterious door leading to an unusual and perilous room. Upon touching the wall, haunting memories from the past flash before her eyes, and the door suddenly closes. A laser beam emerges from the walls, hurtling towards Alice at tremendous speed. Reacting swiftly, she evades the laser by leaping to the ceiling, only to realize that this is just the beginning of a harrowing ordeal. A looming laser net poses another threat, but Alice once again escapes unharmed by leaping into a ventilation shaft. Navigating through the shaft in terror, she eventually emerges in a corridor, recognizing the setting as a hospital. Discovering a medical gurney, Alice races down the corridor, evading yet another trap as a glass screen descends from the ceiling, instantly splitting the gurney in two. Shaken but determined, Alice cautiously continues her journey. After covering a short distance, a mine unexpectedly rises from the floor, releasing shrapnel directly into Alice's stomach, causing a seemingly fatal injury. Covered in red liquid, she looks hopelessly at her hands before collapsing. Men clad in protective suits approach Alice's body, with Dr. Isaacs commanding them to extract samples of the girl's red fluid before disposing of her. The scene transitions to an ordinary house situated in a deserted area, where men in protective gear emerge from an underground laboratory, carrying Alice's lifeless form. They deposit her body into a trench among dozens of similar girls, all failed clones. Meanwhile, the fate of the real Alice remains unknown. Surrounded by iron bars, the entrance to the secret laboratory lies in a desolate desert landscape, with a horde of zombies clamoring outside the perimeter fence. The underground lab, belonging to the Umbrella Corporation, once believed they could control the T-virus, an infection spiraling out of control. Initially contained in Raccoon City, the virus swiftly engulfed the United States and eventually the world, decimating all life in its wake. Survivors, including the genuine Alice, wander America in search of sustenance and refuge, wary of the dangers lurking at every turn. Exploring an abandoned building, Alice cautiously navigates through its rooms, where she encounters a woman clutching a baby. Approaching cautiously, Alice conceals her gun, only to realize the baby is a mere doll, just as she finds herself staring down the barrel of another's firearm. A marauding family launches an attack, catching Alice off guard. With a forceful strike to the leg, Alice incapacitates one of the men attempting to molest her, but the rest of the family overwhelms her, causing her to lose consciousness. Upon regaining awareness, Alice finds herself in a room surrounded by cages housing infected dogs, poised to attack at any moment. The family, intending to entertain themselves, releases the zombie dogs to savage Alice, unaware of the consequences of their cruel plan. However, Alice utilizes her extraordinary abilities to vanquish both the dogs and the marauders, her swift reflexes and agility ensuring her survival. Gathering her remaining weapons, she resumes her journey. Meanwhile, a convoy of survivors traverses the expansive desert in cars and buses, including Claire, Carlos, LJ, Betty, and Otto, communicating via radio to address urgent matters while contending with increasing zombie encounters along the highway. At the Umbrella Corporation's scientific division, led by Dr. Isaacs, discussions with Chairman Wesker center on the biological threat level in their vicinity. Isaacs reveals that the monsters, sustained by their craving for human flesh, pose a persistent danger. Wesker directs Isaacs to focus on the Alice Project, aiming to harness the antibodies in her blood to develop a serum combating the T-virus's effects. This serum, anticipated to restore cognitive function in zombies and reduce their aggression, forms part of Isaac's plan to control and exploit the creatures as laborers. The corporation's management expresses skepticism about Dr. Isaac's plans, citing a lack of results from his experiments. In defense, Isaacs contends that he requires the original source material, namely the real Alice, as the scientific department presently works only with her clones, making the project's outcomes unpredictable. Despite doubts, Isaacs is instructed to persist with his research, emphasizing Alice's significance as the corporation's main project. The chairman, revealed to be holograms, disappear after the meeting. Meanwhile, Alice continues her journey, employing a crossbow to eliminate a zombie near a gas station, only to find no fuel. Entering an abandoned store, she discovers a decomposing body in an open diary. Outside, she observes a raven feasting on the remains of the destroyed zombie. Claire Redfield's group, on their journey, stops at an empty motel. Mikey attempts to contact other survivors, receiving no response. Carlos and LJ cautiously explore the motel, with LJ defeating a zombie in one room. However, he remains silent about being bitten by a female zombie moments later. Simultaneously, new experiments unfold in the underground lab, where Dr. Isaacs injects an infected individual with a serum derived from Alice's clone fluid. The zombie exhibits cognitive abilities, understanding the use of a telephone and a camera. Yet, a sudden burst of uncontrollable rage leads to the creature attacking and devouring the scientists. Isaacs observes from behind a glass panel. In the desert, Otto distributes canned food to the group, facing low supplies of both food and fuel. Carlos sets up surveillance equipment, and Mikey confirms its functionality. Attempting to contact other survivors again, Mikey's signal reaches Alice, who chooses to ignore it. As the girl reads the diary she discovered, she notices notes indicating that Alaska harbors no infected people, offering the possibility of starting a new life there. Dr. Isaac initiates the activation of a new Alice clone. Concurrently, the real Alice's slumber is disrupted by memories of her escape from the Raccoon City laboratory, causing objects to mysteriously float around her. Suddenly, a clone of Alice awakens, coinciding with the real Alice's opening eyes, resulting in everything in the air, including her motorcycle, falling to the ground. The White Queen, an artificial intelligence computer system, materializes in Isaac's lab, notifying the scientist of a spike in psionic activity detected by her instruments. Isaac speculates that these signals may emanate from Alice's clone, but the White Queen asserts that the activity originates outside the underground complex, centered in the desert area. Recognizing that only the real Alice can possess such power, Isaac comprehends the situation. Meanwhile, Alice roams the vast desert, while the group of survivors relaxes in their cars. Suddenly, Kmart, a member of the group, is roused by a strange noise outside the car and cautiously opens the door. Spotting an aggressive bird, she alerts the others, prompting the entire team to heighten their vigilance. They realize they are encircled by a flock of infected ravens. Carlos and Claire instruct everyone to close their windows and remain in their cars, frozen in terror as thousands of birds swoop toward them. Determined to escape, they hastily start their engines, but one car gets stuck in the sand. LJ and Betty dash over to the bus, successfully boarding it, but they face a swarm of birds. Amid the chaos, the driver collides with a pole in the road, rendering the bus immobile. The crows relentlessly shatter the windows of the bus. Claire, noticing the chaos, urgently informs Carlos of the need to rescue the people. Together, they coordinate the transfer of passengers from the bus to the back of a truck. Tragically, casualties mount as Betty, Otto, and several others fall prey to the infected birds. Efforts to repel the ravens with a flamethrower mounted on one of the trucks go awry, endangering Carlos and a rescued girl as the fire spirals out of control. Carlos shields himself as the flames surge dangerously close. Suddenly, the fire halts just a meter away, revealing Alice's intervention with her supernatural powers. Amplifying the flames, Alice engulfs the sky over the desert, averting the group's imminent demise but exposing herself in the process. The White Queen alerts Dr. Isaacs to heightened satellite activity, indicating Alice's involvement, marveling at her expanding abilities. Meanwhile, Alice's new clone undergoes testing but quickly proves inferior to the original. Regaining consciousness after the bird onslaught, Alice witnesses the group bidding farewell to fallen comrades. Introduced by Carlos, Alice learns of her role in uniting the survivors and receives gratitude from the group leader. Alice confides in Carlos about being pursued, recounting her infiltration of the Umbrella base to evade satellite detection. Their reunion is cut short as the satellite tracks Alice's location, prompting Dr. Isaacs to intensify efforts to control her. Concerned for the team's safety, Claire urges Alice to depart, wary of the risks her presence poses. Dr. Isaacs urges Chairman Wesker to take decisive action, but Wesker insists on committee approval, unwilling to gamble with such high stakes. The doctor dreads losing track of Alice again. Her genetic material is pivotal to his research. However, the corporation chairman insists on awaiting confirmation from the computer that it truly is Alice. Alice presents Claire and the group with a diary detailing notes about Alaska, the last uninfected refuge. Despite Claire's reluctance to foster unrealistic hopes, Carlos advocates for the Alaska plan, offering new hope to their dwindling group. Claire opts for a vote, and the group enthusiastically rallies behind the idea of heading to Alaska unanimously. With their destination decided, the group must strategize on restocking food and fuel supplies for the long journey ahead. Recognizing the scarcity in small towns, Claire proposes Las Vegas as their resupply point. Meanwhile, Dr. Isaacs fabricates a directive using the chairman's voice, ostensibly granting him full control over the operation. Umbrella Corporation helicopters close in on Alice's location as LJ's condition worsens from the zombie bite, despite his reluctance to admit it. Arriving in Vegas, the group finds the once vibrant city deserted, now a desolate landscape. Their progress halts when they encounter a suspicious container blocking their path. As they cautiously approach, it suddenly bursts open, unleashing a horde of zombies. In the ensuing chaos, the group expertly dispatches the zombies. Unbeknownst to them, Dr. Isaacs orchestrated the ambush, eager to capture Alice at any cost. He marvels at her powers and orders his team to neutralize her with a satellite signal. Though momentarily frozen by the signal, Alice quickly regains her resolve. Amidst the zombie onslaught, the battle rages on. Despite their efforts, some group members do not survive. Suddenly, LJ transforms into a similarly aggressive creature, forcing Carlos to shoot him. Unfortunately, the infected LJ manages to bite Carlos. Alice successfully resists the satellite's influence, causing the circuit board inside to malfunction. She regains control and resumes the fight. After dispatching more zombies, she targets the corporation's employees. Despite their efforts to stop her, the old methods no longer work on Alice, and she defeats all Umbrella employees. Dr. Isaacs gets bitten by a zombie, but he makes it into a helicopter, where he must receive an antivirus injection. The surviving scientists escape, and Alice devises a new plan. Instead of going to Alaska, they will fly. To execute this plan, they need to track down and capture the company helicopter. Dr. Isaacs is already in the underground laboratory, injecting himself with multiple doses of vaccine. However, the genetic material from Alice's clones has increased the creature's power, leaving the outcome uncertain after the mutated zombie bite. In response, the corporation heads decide to eliminate Isaacs. Despite being shot by a committee member, the doctor miraculously survives. Suddenly, he sprouts long tentacles in place of an arm, which he uses to decimate the employees in the lab. The team of survivors surveys the area beneath which the laboratory is situated. The helicopter they require is within a fenced-off area, surrounded by thousands of zombies. Carlos begins to sense the initial signs of infection. Alice reassures him, promising to secure the vaccine, but Carlos realizes it's too late. Despite this, he conceives a plan, detonating the gas tanker amidst the horde of ghastly creatures to allow the others to breach the gated area. His companions are somber and disheartened, yet they acknowledge there's no alternative. They bid farewell, and Carlos takes the wheel one last time. The fuel truck hurtles forward at a breakneck pace, plowing through everything in its path. Suddenly, the vehicle overturns. Carlos lights his final cigarette and ignites the explosive fuse. Moments later, a thunderous explosion clears a path for Alice, Claire, and the remaining survivors. Everyone boards the helicopter, but Alice refuses to join them. She must confront her adversaries. Alice spots the trench containing the bodies of her clones, overwhelmed with anger. She unsheathes her machete and heads toward the lab entrance. Descending further into the depths, Alice cautiously navigates the corridors of the trashed laboratory. Suddenly, the White Queen materializes before her, revealing that Dr. Isaacs is infected, bitten by the creature on which Alice's new clone fluid serum was being tested. Isaac's infection has triggered an extensive mutation in his body. Alice realizes her red fluid holds the cure. The lab possesses the necessary components to create an antidote and halt the zombie apocalypse. However, the White Queen cannot contain the monstrous form Isaacs has become. If it breaks free, Alice will face destruction. She must confront Isaacs. Delving deeper into the lower levels, Alice cautiously explores the dark and perilous corridors once again. In one of the rooms, Alice discovers her own clone suspended in a transparent bowl filled with liquid. Suddenly, Alice is ambushed by a terrifying mutant, the former Dr. Isaacs. The orb shatters, revealing Alice's exact replica in her arms. Startled by the sight of the real Alice, the clone faints. The battle with the mutant Isaacs resumes, but defeating him proves challenging as all his wounds heal instantly. He extends his long tentacles and attempts to strangle Alice. Just in time, she grabs her machete and severs them. Isaacs unleashes his tentacles once more, but Alice, empowered by her extraordinary abilities, restrains them. With tremendous force, she hurls the mutant backward, yet he survives. Alice finds herself in the room with the lasers, determined to vanquish Isaacs by any means necessary. Suddenly, a laser grid descends upon the mutated doctor, slicing him into small pieces. For a moment, it seems the same fate awaits Alice, but at the last second, the grid halts and disappears. Alice's clone regains consciousness just in time to access the computer. The Umbrella Corporation's management attempts unsuccessfully to contact the North American station, realizing they've lost their personnel there. Nonetheless, research must persist. A holographic projection of Alice suddenly materializes in the conference room, announcing her proximity and the presence of her new allies. These allies are revealed to be thousands of Alice clones, prepared to thwart ultimate destruction and save the world. Will Alice triumph in eradicating evil from the planet and defeating the ruthless corporation, or will the combined efforts of scientists and the military prevail? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications for more content like this. Thank you for watching.